Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Burns.
Yeah, Nancy Burns here.
And we're from Future Theater. And you know what we like to listen to?
Bang.
Radio on Sunday nights at 9 p.m.
At 9 p.m.?
What
Eastern.
network?
Oh, the best network on the whole entire internet. Inception Radio Network.
Paying Radio is sponsored by Dream Nuage Organics and Naturals. Made from organically certified products, Dream Nuage brings you nothing but the best for your body made by nature. Check them out. DreamNuage.com. That's DreamNuage.com. Simply natural.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Get ready to pang your head. Your radio host for Pang Radio, Mike Lucas.
Welcome, Planet Earth, to Paying Radio. Tonight is February 15th, 2015, Sunday night that is, the day after the Lovers' Holiday. I hope everybody had a spectacular Valentine's Day. We watched a great little movie. I don't know if you're into kids' movies, but we watched one called The Box Trolls, and it was actually a really cool little movie. So be sure you check out a movie called The Box Trolls. I'm here with my co-host, Ken Storch. Ken, how are you doing?
Hey, I am doing fine, and it's good to be back on the air. It's been, a 2-week hiatus, and
I think so, yep.
Actually, I missed being on the radio.
It was. It's kind of party every Sunday night. I know I kind of get the itch. And last week we got a little sick. I'm thinking food poisoning because I didn't have your typical flu symptoms. I mean, this up and down fever, but I was able to eat everything and nothing else is wrong with me. But thank God that traumatic thing's over.
Oh, I've been there, done that. I've had a little touch of food poisoning myself in the past, and it's not anything to be bragging about. It can be devastating.
Ken, do you got any shout-outs tonight?
I do. I want to say hello to George and Patty, and I want to have a special thanks to Lorna Hunter with Le Pig. Lorna, I appreciate all of your hard work, and thanks for everything you do. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Rosie in England. Rosie, how you doing, girl?
Nice. I got a list of shout-outs from Facebook. We got Ken Yavonsky from Hopeville, New York, Greg Watson from Bennington, Vermont, Bob King from Raleigh, North Carolina. We have James Miller from Rochester, New York. Got some East Coasters listening tonight. We also have Deborah Anderson out of Duluth, Minnesota, right across the lake pond from me here. And a special shout-out to Jennifer Selsey and Kevin Malik, both listening in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. They are the head of the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, so they're great people. I listened to a show of theirs. They do their own little show now, and did one on demonology, and it was very interesting. It was a few guys that I've actually had on my show. Gavin from Raven International Paranormal, and Jerry Williams, who's a demonologist. But boy, that is that's a dark side to get into. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no kidding. There's some negative energy there, that's for sure. Demonology?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Ken, tonight's show is going to be pretty good. It's a case that's intrigued me as a little kid. I remember reading about it, with Betty and Bob Luca here, this Andreasson Affair. I mean, they have basically been dealing with aliens, contact for years. I mean, and it's documented by, J. Allen Hynek and Raymond Fowler, and a book is written about it. But this is going to be a good show tonight.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking really forward to it. I know a little bit about the case, but I'm really looking forward to exploring in depth with our guest. I think our listeners are going to find this very interesting.
Oh yeah, and Betty and Bob were also on. I believe they're on Heidi Hollis I think about 2 months ago. Very, very great people. They were very flexible with us, and we're able to come back on this week again. So you don't get that with too many guests.
No, you don't. And I'm really appreciative that they were able to adjust their schedule to accommodate us, given all the the interruptions and everything. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be very, very interesting.
You know what, Ken? Let's get down to it. Let's
do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like Sonny Pruitt.
Let me get them pulled up here, and we'll call them, and they will be ready. There we go. And they are talking to us via the East Coast. Not sure what city, but they're on the East Coast, so they're standing by for the show tonight. Nothing like the old live call.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
Hello.
Hey, Betty. This is MJ and Ken Storch from Paying Radio. Welcome to the show tonight.
Oh, thank you very much. And Bob is here with me.
Hey, Bob. How you doing? Thank you for the flexibility, by the way.
Oh, no problem. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great now. I'm ready to go tonight. We're really ready to dig in and listen to your story tonight.
Oh, excellent.
Excellent. So you guys want to kind of give our listeners a little bit of background on what you did and then what led up to the story, if you would like to do that for our listeners?
All right.
Sure.
Would you like me to start?
Yeah, go ahead, Betty.
Okay, well, the Andreasson Affair book is out now, a second run. And what happened was, it happened in 1967. And my ex-husband, my husband at the time, had an accident with a car, and he was hospitalized. And because of it, I have 7 children, and my mother and father came to stay with me to help out. And it was the evening, January 25th. The lights were working. The kids were watching television. My mother and father were in the living room, and I was in and out of the kitchen to the living room. And suddenly, the lights went out, and there was a reddish-orange light coming through the pantry window. And wondering what in the world was going on, unknown to me, my father had passed by me and went into the pantry area to check what it was. We were thinking, well, maybe it's the police or the fire department for those reddish-orange lights to be, blinking and flashing into the kitchen, into the living room. And actually, my father was the first one to see the beings coming into my home. He was in the pantry. We had like a half wall in the pantry, and he was where I could not see him, and there's a window right there. And he saw the beings coming down the hill, and he said it looked like children in costumes like moon men. Mm-hmm. And then what happened was they came into my house, right into the kitchen, right through the wooden door. They did not open it. They just came right through the wooden door. So I was pretty amazed at what was going on and wondering, what is this? And I was trying to figure in my mind how did this happen, and I just thought of Scripture where it says, entertain the strangers, for it may be angels unaware. And so that kind of made me feel a little better, and I felt a little peace around me because of that, because who are we to say what the angels are supposed to look like, even though they were gray-skinned, about 5 feet, had large heads with black, dark eyes. They were dressed in a blue uniform, and so they stood there, and they started to communicate with me, and it was through the mind. And I thought they were saying something, they were hungry or needed something to eat or something. And so I went to the refrigerator, got some meat, and I put it in the frying pan, put on the stove, and I started to cook it. And the leader, the taller one, jumped back sort of because a little smoke came up from the pan. And he said, no, in my mind, no, that isn't what we're looking for. We're looking like for some knowledge tried by fire. And I thought, well, what in the world could I have like that? And the only thing I could think of was the Bible. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, he heard me that I have something maybe in the living room that might interest him. We moved into the living room, and the 4 of them were standing to the side. As I said, the other one went over by my father, which I was unaware of. And at that point, I reached down from the end table, and I took the Bible, and I passed it to the leader, and he said his name was Quasgar. And when he reached out his hand, I could see he had 3 fingers. And he put his other hand up, waved it over the Bible, and 3 smaller books appeared. And he passed them to the 3 that were standing by him. And they held them in their hands, and they didn't even have to turn the pages. They just flipped by, and it seemed like white light was in there. I couldn't see any print at all, just pages of white light flipping by. And it seemed as if they were consuming whatever it was through their eyes. At that point, I saw my mother, and the children on the couch, and I was worried because they looked like they were in a state of suspended animation. I'm wondering what in the world is going on. Well, he must have felt or saw that I was upset, seeing that my children and my mother was not moving. So he took my daughter Becky out for briefly, and she stood up from the couch and was standing there and just looking. Didn't seem as if she could move very much, but she was watching what was going on. And at that point, he gave me a thin blue book. And when he passed it to me, he says, "This is something like an initiation." And I was allowed to keep it for 10 days and try and grasp as much as I possibly could about what was in that thin book. At that point, we moved out of the living room. I evidently put the thin blue book back down, on the end table. We moved into the kitchen, and we moved right out of the door, right through the heavy wooden kitchen door, out into the backyard. And we stood there. Off to the left was a craft hit on just a slight hill in the back of the yard. And when we stood there, he raised his hand, the leader raised his hand, and when he did, he made the lower part of the craft appear transparent so I could see what was underneath it. He must have done it on purpose for me to see what the machine was about, because I saw the large, huge crystal balls that had this metallic stem that came down and grasped onto the bottom balls. And then there was a smaller crystal ball, cut crystal this was, on the top. And then there was an armature that came out of the stem, and it had a sort of a wheel-like crystal wheel on it. And there was like a tube that circled the 3 different, whatever they were, motors or whatever. I don't know exactly what they were, but I could see all of this going on. After that, he took his hand down, put his hand down, and I was brought aboard the craft. And I had to wait there at the first room, small room there at first for a while. And after a while, they came back for me, and they brought me into an upper room. And the place looked bigger. I couldn't understand how can this be so big when I could see the craft. It didn't seem that big. And they brought me up into an upper room, and I was there for briefly and looking around at the different things that were there. They then brought me back down into another room, and in this room, the leader, who said his name was Quasgar, told me that they were going to measure me for light. And so I thought, well, okay, measuring for light isn't bad. And so they took me into the room. Well, first of all, I had to go into a cleansing area, and then also had to change into a robe, a small robe that they had me go into this changing room. And then they took me into the room to measure me for light. And when I lay on the table, they used sort of like a fan-like thing that just moved up and down my body. And then the leader said, well, we're going to have to measure you physically. And I thought, what? No. you said just measure me for light. And he said, well, there was something in back of the knee. Now, whatever it was, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
It might have just been an excuse. But anyway, they decided that they were going to measure me physically. And at that particular point, what they did was they were checking me for procreation. And what happened was they used a needle, had a long tuber, like pipe or whatever you call it, with a needle on the end, and they thrust it in my navel. And it was painful at first, but he put his hand on my forehead, and it took away most of the pain. But I could feel it moving around all through my lower part of my body. And suddenly he stopped, and the other two beings that were in there came over to him, and they unrolled some type of material and were looking at this, whatever it was. And then the lead Aquasgar came to me and said there was something missing. And so I knew what he was talking about because I had had a hysterectomy. And at that point, they withdrew the needle, and they had to do just one more thing, and that was they thrust a needle into my left nostril. And again, he put his hand on my forehead to take away a lot of that pain that I felt. And he withdrew the needle, and it was like a BB-like thing on the end of it with little tiny points on the tall bead-like BB at the end of the needle. And at that point, then I was taken off the table, brought into change, and also to be cleansed again. Then they took me into another area, and in this area, there was a sort of, well, it's hard to explain. In the same area, there was like something that came out of the wall. It was like a square thing that came out of the wall, and it looked like there were honeycomb things all around the outside with these long stems with glass or crystal on the end of each interior of these honeycomb things. And I think it had something to do with how the ship was being running, evidently. At that point, then they took me into another room, and and by the way, there was the beings that had first checked me. They had changed and come into the room and had silver suits on. And two of those beings came with me when I was going into this other room. And I could see off to the left-hand side, there was sort of like a rounded elevator. I don't know what it was, but it seemed like a rounded elevator off to the right. Then I was brought into this other room, and in this other room, it was sort of like a Quonset hut type room. It was lit up. There were about 8 chairs, 4 to the left and 4 to the right. And they put me in one off to the left. And they gave me some sweet liquid to drink, and also had things in my nose when the top came down, and I could feel it start to fill up with some kind of liquid. And that went on for briefly. I had to just sit there, and I was afraid I was going to drown with what was coming into the chair, but it was enclosed, and I was enclosed in it. After that, it stopped and then drained, and I was taken out of that chair, and I was taken down to, I think I was at that point still a little damp, and so they had set me in another chair where they had this light coming down, and it dried me off very quickly. And then there were 2 beings there, and they were dressed in silver suits. One got in front of me, one in back of me, and a black track ran through this Quonset hut type room, and we just stood on it, and it just moved along. We didn't have to move at all. It was just moving on its own. We went through a door and into like a cave. I could tell it was a cave because it was so dark. The two beings with me also put some black hoods over their heads. So when we went in there, what light there was, it looked just like silver suits, and one in front, one in back of me. And what reflection there was, I could see there were other entrances, much darker entrances in this hallway in different spots. And we were just moving along on this track. And as we moved along on this track, we kept on going, and we came up to something that looked like a mirror. And it seemed like there was a reddish glow, and we went right through the mirror. It was just like when they came through the wooden door when they first came to the house. We went right through the mirror into a red atmosphere. And in this red atmosphere, there were buildings, no vegetation whatsoever, but there were buildings and ground, and there were these strange creatures in there, and they were bright red. And they had a funny top to them for the head. It was like two stalks that came out at the neck area, and at the end of these stalks were these black eyes. And they were crawling all over the building and sitting in some of the open windows and on the ground as well. But they didn't touch us. And as we went through there, the two beings, one in front and one in back, kept those hoods on, black hoods. And I guess they needed it to go through there and didn't provide one for me. Evidently, they thought my dark hair was enough to protect me or whatever. And so we continued along the track, and up ahead, I could see a swirling motion going on. And it was still red, but it was changing like red with green. And then all of a sudden, we just went through that. I don't know if it was an energy door or whatever. We just was still on the track, and it was very stable. We went through the door or whatever it was, the energy door, circular thing, and we're just moving along, and we entered an area that was green atmosphere. And we're just on this track. But I looked down and I could see it was green, like a green ocean, green water underneath us, way below. And we're just moving along with the beings, one in front, one in back of me. And I looked off to the side. I could see something that looked like I don't know if it was like a plane or what. It looked like sort of like a fish, a big, huge thing, and it was like flying in midair. We continued on this black track, and the atmosphere was all bright green. And as we moved along, I could look to the left, and I saw like a city, and it had domes, clear domes and pinnacles, or whatever you call them, that pointed things that came up, and there were these black tracks that ran all through that city. Whatever, it looked like a city to me anyway. Maybe it wasn't. I don't really know, but it was on some land, and the water was close to it. And as we moved along on this track, we passed that city area to the left, and as we started to go a little further, I saw on the ground there was a three-sided pyramid, and it had a head on top of it. And the head to me looked like an Egyptian head with an Egyptian headdress and the face. And it was just sitting on top of a three-sided pyramid. But this pyramid was strange because it was flat in the front, and then it indented a little and then went to the point and indented and went to the point to the back. So I thought it was like a three-sided pyramid. And on the edges was white, whereas the rest was a reddish brown. And as I said, that head was on top of it, and it looked Egyptian. And I was shocked because during a lecture, and I was telling of what had happened and what I saw, a person handed me or gave me a magazine where I guess it was Hoagland was explaining about on
Sure.
Mars there was a face. Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly how that head looked, exactly like that face, the same headdress and everything.
Wow. Well, I was going to check in. Ken, did you have any questions for?
Yeah, I do. This cleansing, what did that entail? I mean, did they give you a bath, or was it liquid? What made you think that it was a cleansing room?
It was light. It was light. It was like a round thing that I had to step up on, and the light sprayed down on me. And that's all it was. It was no liquid. I couldn't smell anything different or anything.
Was there any sensation, a tingling or anything to indicate that something was changing about your appearance or your body?
Well, it was just the whole thing was so strange to me. It would, at each time there were different feelings that I felt because there was so much going on. They just kept me moving constantly, doing one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. So it was kind of hard. Where I really felt that everything was when they put the needle in my navel. But as I said, the leader put his hand on my forehead and took away a great deal of the pain. And then when they thrust the needle into my left nostril and pulled out that BB-like thing, that hurt at first, yes.
Betty, this is MJ. Now, did you have a sense that when you were brought on the ship that the ship was moving, or did you feel that you were taking off the planet Earth? What was your thought on that?
I was just so surprised.
By
everything.
Okay.
I really couldn't tell if we were moving because I was being transported from
One
by
place.
the being from one place to another. But I couldn't really tell that. Although things were changing constantly.
Sure.
Hey, Betty.
Yes?
You described they had 3 fingers on their hands. Was there any other characteristics about these entities that you remember what they look like?
Yeah, they had gray skin, large bulbous heads, and they had really dark eyes, and they had the suits on, tight-fitted blue suits, and they had an emblem of, it looked like a bird, but sort of like an eagle with small wings, though, downward, and on the emblem. And then they had a belt, and they had a sash that went across their chest as well. And then they had boots on.
Okay. Betty and Bob, it's time for our first break. Just hang in there. Everybody, you're listening to Paying Radio on the Inception Radio Network. Tonight we have on Betty and Bob Luca talking about the Andreasson Affair. So hang in, everybody, and we'll be right back.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Remember, you can take your Inception Radio shows on the go. Just download the Inception Radio Network app for your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphones and access live shows, past shows, guest lineups, and much more. Just visit the iTunes Store or the Google Play Marketplace and download it today for free.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying Radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Howdy, this is Joe Mars. I'm inviting you to tune in to Epic Voyages, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday nights, right here on Inception Radio Network. To find out more about Epic and how you can become a member, visit epicvoyagers.com. That's EPICVOYAGERS.com.
Écoutez Pong Radio tous les dimanches à 21h Eastern, uniquement sur Inception Radio Network.
Paying Radio is sponsored by Dream Nuage Organics and Naturals. Made from organically certified products, Dream Nuage brings you nothing but the best for your body made by nature. Check them out. DreamNuage.com. That's DreamNuage.com. Simply natural.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Welcome back, everybody, to Paying Radio. Tonight we have on Betty Andreasson Luca and Bob Luca talking about the Andreasson Affair and ongoing contact with the an alien race. On the break, we had a good discussion about part of her first experience, and we got a good question in chat too here for you, Betty. So it kind of relates to what Ken was talking about on break too. Does Betty think that the removal of the BB-like implant from her left nostril indicates a previous visit or implantation? So, Betty, do you think that there was something in your nose that they removed and they have visited you before that first experience?
Yes, I know that now
Okay.
because I had to go under regressive hypnosis. There were three young childhood experiences, and the third one at 13 years old, they put an implant in me. They removed my eye, and again, he put his hand on my forehead to take away a great deal of the pain, but that was difficult.
Hey, Betty, do you think it was the same individual when you were 13 as it was when you and Bob were abducted? Do you think it was the same individual and the same crew, I guess, is what I'm asking?
No, there were others. There were others, but I'm sure they all knew what was going on. There were some smaller ones when I was 13 and picked up on a moon ship. They were smaller beings, and there were different things that happened during that encounter. I did receive the implant within my eye.
But from the time you were 13 until the time you were an adult, you had no idea that, and this is what we were talking about during the break, you had no idea that you had an implant. Is that correct?
No. See, the thing is it started with where I sent the information to Dr. Hynek, and this was years later. He had a thing in the newspaper or anything unusual that had happened like that, so I thought, I just recalled of the things that happened because they place a block on your mind. But the thing was, I recalled one being and what he looked like and everything, and it troubled me because we had moved then. We had moved to a different place. We had built our own home and everything, and it was still troubling me, wondering what in the world was that happened. And so when I saw that article by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, I thought, well, I'll send this information. Maybe they can figure it out. And I felt relief. I felt, here's a learned man. He will be able to understand what that was that came into my house. And so, but it wasn't until 3 years later that an investigative team from Massachusetts wanted to find out if anybody had any encounters with humanoids. They wrote to Dr. Hynek, and he in turn withdrew. He had it there for 3 years, the letter that I sent, and he withdrew it, and he sent it to them. They got in touch with me, asked me if I would be willing to undergo regressive hypnosis, because all I had at that point was the being, what he looked like with the big eyes, the gray skin, the big head, and so they wanted to see if I'd be willing to undergo that. Now, I did undergo that for the 1967 encounter, but then they wanted to research and see if there was any earlier encounters. So they put me through regressive hypnosis, and there were 3 earlier encounters.
Very interesting.
Hey, Betty, did you have any type of physical examination after these beings removed the object from your left nostril? I mean, did you go to a doctor afterwards because of any bleeding or any injuries that you may have sustained?
No, at that time I didn't. I think they put a block on me because of the fact don't forget, I had 7 children. I had a lot of work to do and take care of the kids. And my husband was in the hospital. My mother and father did come to stay with me briefly, but it was winter. I had to drive and snow and everything in Massachusetts. You know how that is, to go and visit him. And he had a bad accident, so he had to be in the hospital for quite a while.
Betty, after you got back from this first experience, how did your family react? Did they realize that they had been in a suspended animation, or did they recall any of, the aliens coming in the room?
Well, the thing is, the 1967 encounter, the researchers asked if if my father would be willing to talk with them, and he didn't want to. He didn't want to say anything because of what he saw. Even though he was there, he saw the lights go out, he saw the beings coming into the house, and boom, that was it, he recalled. And I told him, I said, Daddy, I remember some of that stuff. This is when I had gone through regressive hypnosis. And I says, I remember those things with the beings and everything. And I says, I need support too. And if you saw them, will you please tell them? And he was worried about his Social Security because my parents were retired and living on their Social Security. He was afraid the government would take their Social Security away or something or other. And of course, if it was people that wanted to know what was going on and everything, they'd go after the man before they'd go after a young woman with 7 children.
Hey, Betty, and you brought up something that was one of the questions I wrote down. And that is, during this whole time and since, have you had any official contact from anybody that represented themselves as being part of the government or any type of officialdom in regards to what transpired?
No, I gave all the information there, but we've gone through some terrible things because I think the government just tracking us, following us in our mail, on the telephone, a lot of things we've gone. Helicopters coming over, black helicopters.
Do you think they being black ops or some subversive part of the government was tracking you also?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Both,
okay.
Both Bob and I. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we even had a miscommunication on the show. Bob checked his email and we never got responses back and forth. And
boy, a lot of the radio shows
that
wanted us on the show, their show, just somehow they disappeared. Well, Bob can tell you about that if you'd like.
Yeah, Bob, what's going on with all this craziness with your emails disappearing? And we're privileged to get you on the air because not many shows have had you. That's awesome. Go ahead, Bob.
Not only has many of my emails disappeared, but I actually caught 2 offices of the Department of Defense in my computer. One was the United States Navy Space Weapons Systems Division, and the other, within 48 hours, was the United States Army National Guard. And I had been working as a computer technician. I had some good software in my computer. I caught them both. I got the physical address, the street address, the number of the computer, the day, the date, the time, the computer ID, and I wrote to the Department of Defense, and I got a letter back from the United States Army Inspector General stating it was, in fact, those two computers, the Navy and the Army, that hacked into my computer. So I asked why. I was promised an investigation would be done. Not only it was not done, but I have written, this has been a few years now, I have filed Freedom of Information requests on them as recently as 2013 and 2014. They keep ducking the situation, saying they can't find any documentation, even though I gave them the case number they gave me, the day, the date, the time, computer IDs, and so forth. So I finally I wrote the United States Attorney General, and I said, even if I don't get the information I requested, this is an illegal act, and I want your office to investigate it. Which, you know, they're going to fluff me off. I mean, they're not going to give me answers.
Right.
But at least I've generated some paperwork, and I have proof that they actually did break into my computer. And this isn't like a one-time deal. There's been times, on one occasion, I turned on the computer, and before I could hit the keyboard, I just watched a whole series of print disappear from my screen. They have removed things that I had in the computer, but the thing is, what they might want is not in my computer. So it doesn't matter how long they examine. We have two other computers in the house that are not online, so they're not going to get at those. The other thing, the stuff really got intense once the first book came out. The helicopters were military, mostly Huey UH-1s and Blackhawks. They were all black. There were no numbers, no markings, which is illegal according to Federal Aviation regulations. I had chased after them for several years. I've got hundreds of pictures of them. But the interesting thing is, since the FAA, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, helicopter manufacturers, nobody could tell me whose helicopters these were, even though I had the photographs, and I was at the time taking lessons for my pilot's license. So I had the approximate altitude, I had the compass heading, the day, the date, the time, all that stuff. No one could tell me whose helicopters they were. So I sent a photograph to Bell Helicopter out in Texas. I got in touch with a man named Dick Tipton, and he was their public relations person. I sent him a picture of one of the helicopters, and he sent me back a letter, which I still have. And that letter stated that this particular helicopter was built by Bell Helicopter, but it did not leave their facility in the condition it was in. He stated flatly that this helicopter had been modified by the Air Force for psychological warfare and was a type that was used in Vietnam. So why they're flying over our house, number one, it was witnessed over our house by newspaper reporters, police officers, neighbors. And these flights sometimes, federal regulation says a helicopter has to be 500 feet laterally from a building. Well, they went directly over our house at times. I think the lowest flight was approximately 75 feet. So that's pretty, blatant. But what they didn't count on was I have a sense of humor. So we thought we'd have a little fun with these guys. A friend of mine at work had been in the military, and he built me an exact replica, full size, of a surface-to-air missile. So we waited, and sooner or later along came a Huey UH-1 from the north side of our house. We could hear it coming because they have a very distinctive rotor noise. So we went out the back of the house, the south side, and we set up this missile. And he was coming in low, and I had flown over our house, so I knew what he was seeing. He could not see the actual missile until he cleared the roof of our house, pretty much. As he approached our house and got within line of sight, that helicopter turned sideways. In other words, we were looking at the bottom of it because it was in that sharp a turn, pulling away from the house. It was an evasive maneuver. And we got a charge out of it. I told my wife, I said, I'll bet you that guy's headed back to base, and he's going to get himself a shower and a change of clothes.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.